Every day right around this time too, my Wi-Fi, there's no internet connection. Is that because it's overloaded?
Yeah, because we're streaming.
Yeah, okay, but I mean, even before you got on here, right around 7:45, maybe because Daryl's on, I don't know, or other people are
I
on.
mean, there's Zero, there's Pritchard, there's Bye-Bye.
Yeah, they're in the kitchen, yeah.
Shanti in the kids if they're doing anything.
It's like clockwork. I have to turn off my Wi-Fi to get, you know.
We don't have Wi-Fi. We're having massive Wi-Fi. Do we have any books? No. Does anyone have what kind of book did you get? A Wi-Fi.
Can I lower this without breaking it? This one. Oh, yeah, but that's too much to ask for me. Yeah, actually right here is good because it's above the book but below the camera. You see, you don't want to block my face and you don't want to block the book. It's right here. Yeah. And let's see if this works.
Certainly wasn't.
What happens?
Like Jimmy could.
Oh, she.
That movie was ahead of its time, okay?
Huh?
That movie was ahead of its time.
Okay,
Yeah, I
good.
watched it last year, and I was like, oh wow, this is actually pretty good. I watched this.
Look, there's the culprit.
Watch out, troublemaker coming through.
It's his Wi-Fi. It's his log on.
Yeah, we know you.
He says he's not expecting the plane.
You're shocked there, he told us.
Go back to your YouTube.
Oh no, it's got a stick.
Shoot us.
It doesn't have a stick.
See you in 5 years. I turned it off there.
Turn it off?
Yeah, because I don't need it for singing, but I need it for
Yes.
speaking. I just did a test.
Leave it on.
Hari.
You got this.
No, nice and distant. Let's see. Okay. Okay, Sophie's chiming in. Jayo Rama Kunja Bihari Jaya Rama Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Nila Baldhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Nila Baldhari Vibradikatarya Ashtotarashata Sri Srimad. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jai Gaur Premanandi. All glory is to the assembled devotees. All glory is to the assembled devotees. All glory is to the assembled devotees. All glory is to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 O my Lord, Sri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, of all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Okay. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, translation commentary by Srila Prabhupada, Canto 4, The Creation of the Fourth Order, Chapter 27. Attack by Chandavega on the city of Paranjan, today's text 17. Kshiyamane svasambandhe
Yamane Swasambhante.
ekasmin bahubir yudha
Ekasmin Bahubir Yudha.
chintang parang jagamarta
Shambharam Jagamarta.
sarashtra purabandavaha
Sarashtra Purabandhava.
Kshiyamane svasambandhe
Shiyamane Swasambhante.
ekasmin bahubir yudha
Ekasmin Bahubir Yudha.
chintang parang jagamarta
Shambharam Jagamarta.
sarashtra purabandavaha
Sarashtra Purabandhava.
Kshiyamane svasambandhe
Shiyamane Swasambhante.
ekasmin bahubhir yudha
Ekasmin Bahubir Yudha.
chintang parang jagamartha
Chintam Param Jagamarta.
sarashtra purabandavaha.
Sarashtra Purabandhava.
Yeah.
Shiyamane swasambandhe.
Shiyamane Swasambhante.
Ekasmin bahubir yada.
Ekasmin Bahubir Yudha.
Chintam param jagamarta.
Chintam Param Jagamarta.
Sarashtra purabandavaha.
Sarashtra Purabandhava.
Shiyamane swasambandhe.
Shiyamane Swasambhante.
Ekasmin bahubir yada.
Ekasmin Bahubir Yudha.
Chintam param jagamarta.
Chintam Param Jagamarta.
Sarashtra purabandava.
Sarashtra Purabandhava.
Shiyamane Swasambandhe.
Shiyamane Swasambhante.
Ekasmin Bahubir Yudha.
Ekasmin Bahubir Yudha.
Chintam Param Jagamarta.
Chintam Param Jagamarta.
Sarashtra Purabandhava.
Sarashtra Purabandhava.
Shiyamane swasambandhe
Shiyamane Swasambhante.
ekasmin bahubhir yudha
Ekasmin Bahubir Yudha.
chintam param jagamarta
Chintam Param Jagamarta.
sarashtra purabandhava.
Sarashtra Purabandhava.
Anybody else? How about Casey? Can you see it?
Mhm.
You want to try?
Yeah. Shiyamane Swasambhande
Shiyamane Swasambhande Ekasmin Bahugirya Chintambaram Jagamarta Sarashtra Purabandhava.
You've had practice. No beginner. All right, word for word. Shiyamane.
Shiyamane.
When he becomes weak.
When he became weak.
Oh, became. I got my glasses. Swasambandhe.
Swasambhande.
His intimate friend.
His intimate friend.
Ekasmin.
Ekasmin.
Alone.
Alone.
Bahubihi.
Bahubihi.
With many warriors.
With many warriors.
Yudha.
Yudha.
By battle.
By battle.
Chintam.
Chintam.
Anxiety.
Anxiety.
Param.
Param.
Very great.
Very great.
Jagama.
Jagama.
Obtained.
Obtained.
Arthaha.
Artha.
Being aggrieved.
Being agreed.
Sa.
Sa.
Along with.
Along with.
Rashtra.
Rashtra.
Of the kingdom.
Of the kingdom.
Pura.
Pura.
Of the city.
Of the city.
Bandavaha.
Bandhava.
Friends and enemies.
And relatives.
Oh. Thanks. Boy. I need more than glasses. All right, good. Thanks. That's when we need each other, right? All right, translation. Because he had to fight alone with so many soldiers, all of whom were great warriors, the serpent with 5 hoods became very weak. Seeing that his most intimate friend was weakening, King Paranjan and his friends and citizens living within the city all became very anxious. Please repeat. Because he had to fight alone with so many soldiers,
Because he had to fight alone with so many soldiers,
all of whom were great warriors,
all of whom were great warriors,
the serpent with 5 hoods
with 5 hoods,
became very weak.
became very weak.
Seeing that his most intimate friend was weakening,
Seeing that his most intimate friend was weakening,
King Paranjan and his friends
King Paranjan and his friends
and citizens
and citizens
living within the city
living within the city
all became very anxious.
all became very anxious.
Srila Prabhupada's purport: the living entity resides within the body and struggles for existence with the limbs of the body, which are referred to here as citizens and friends. One can struggle alone with many soldiers for some time, but not for all time. The living entity within the body can struggle up to the limit of 100 years with good luck, if he's lucky, right? But after that, it is not possible to prolong the struggle. Thus, the living entity submits and falls victim. In this regard, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has sung, Vriddha Kala Aula Sabha Sukha Bhagal. When one becomes old, it becomes impossible to enjoy material happiness. Generally, people think that religion and piety come at the end of life. And at this time, one generally becomes meditative and takes to some so-called yogic process to relax in the name of meditation. Meditation, however, is simply a farce for those who have enjoyed life in sense gratification. As described in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, meditation, dhyana, dharana, is a difficult subject matter that one has to learn from his very youth. To meditate, one must restrain himself from all kinds of sense gratification. Unfortunately, meditation has now become a fashion for those who are overly addicted to sensual things. Such meditation is defeated struggle for existence. Sometimes such meditative processes pass for transcendental meditation. King Paranjan, the living entity, being thus victimized by the hard struggle for existence, took to transcendental meditation with his friends and relatives. Jai Prabhupada. Prabhupada ki. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Chalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master is kindly opening my eye, forcing, what is it? Kindly forcing, opening my eyes with a torch of knowledge. Is that it? Of my presence unto him. Forgetting everything. Must be, I think I am Pranjan here. Getting old. It's a fact. What to do? Give Bhagavatam class and wake up. All right, so Chandavega. Who's Chandavega in the allegory? We got many soldiers, 700, what is it, 360 and 360, 720 nights and days. And yeah, the first 12 texts of this chapter, it was just all about how Puranjan and his queen, Puranjani, spent their life enjoying, right? Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. It's just for merrily, 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 merrily. It's very merry until the bill starts to come in.
Until the waterfall.
Yeah, until the water falls. Right, that's a fact. So starting with text 13, the bill's coming in, and Chandavega is starting to attack the city by reducing life's duration. Oh, here we go. Oh no, thought it was a homeless guy. It was Mukunda Mama with a mask on. Okay. We don't usually think of the passing of the days and nights as being an attack. So how was it an attack?
Time destroyed all things.
Yeah, we're being robbed of what remains in our life. Yeah, that's what Shonaka Rishi said in the second, what is it, 2.3.17. Ayur harati vai pungsam. You know that? Both by rising and by setting. Udyanastan. The sun decreases the duration of life of every living entity, except one who spends his time glorifying Uttama Shloka, Krishna, with choice poetry. So, So now life's duration is being decreased, and the miseries are increasing. How's your knee doing? Increasing, not in pleasure, but in, yeah, right. So Prabhupada quotes in the purport Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He says, Bhaktivinoda Thakur has sung Vriddha Kala Aula Sabha Sukha Bhaga. I didn't have the patience to look all through his songbooks for that, but I did find how Prabhupada he made another reference to this verse in a conversation. In the last year of his life, Prabhupada's experiencing, the last of old age, with my godbrother Jasomanti Nandan Prabhu from Gujarat. And the first thing Jasomanti says is, I guess he didn't know what to say, so he says to Prabhupada, who's lying on what would become his disappearance bed, he says, "How are you feeling?" But Prabhupada just takes it, in good stride. So Prabhupada says here, not very good. Old man's disease. As soon as we're born, we start dying, and for when it was taken, his birth, death is certain. But then when the body really gets old, Prabhupada says if he's lucky, 100 years, right? Old man's disease. And then Prabhupada makes it means the same reference to the song. Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, Vriddha Kala Aula Sabha Sukha Bhagal. And the transcriber puts a question mark. He doesn't know what this is, where it's from, or but anyway, Prabhupada didn't give a reference. And then Prabhupada says, quote, when a man becomes old, all bodily comforts, ... close quote. And then, then he just starts on his own. So he was starting to translate that phrase, but then Prabhupada just stops and says, so it is not very good to live like an old man. Oh, it's no fun being old. What did Ronald Reagan say? Anybody know the famous Ronald Reagan quote about old age? It's not for sissies. And then he forgot he said it. I mean, for the last 10 years of his life, he didn't even know who he was because of Alzheimer's. Yeah. It is troublesome. Kaviraj said an ordinary person would have been screaming in pain, just nerve on bone. So Prabhupada says, it is troublesome. Body will be weakened. So this is now it's kind of like he's turning to his young disciple, will be weakened, and all kinds of disease will be strong. Unless one is very strong in body, old age means suffering. So whatever Krishna Balaram desires, and now he's, what he was telling us the whole time, I don't mind your company, but it's up to Krishna. Now it is up, now listen to this. Now it is up to you to maintain the society very nicely. I'm leaving the scene. Can't you tell? No body left practically. There is framework. Prabhupada's built all the infrastructure, spiritual and material, for Hare Krishna movement. There is framework. There is idea. He has given us all philosophy in the spoken and written word. There is facility of everything. If you like, you can maintain work. You can maintain it. Yeah. And then the conversation changes. And Jasso starts talking about a nice farm in Ahmedabad, which actually he ended up being the president there. So, okay. So if like Paranjan, we try vainly to exploit our senses to enjoy, we cannot experience our true self. It's like we're trying to be our body. Usually when we get, usually when we try to, even when we get older, when we try to be our body, we're remembering how we were when we were younger, when it was more fun, right? So, because that's how we want to think, okay, I can still, by working out and whatever, I can still recoup that. It's a hopeless proposition. So we're bewildered by nature's modes. So where have all those bodies gone? The body, I was a little league baseball player, and then I was even, when I had a column for BTG, Play Living and High Thinking. What do you see? Have you seen that picture that used to be?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where's that body gone? I don't look like that anymore. Nice looking young man, with, I think I was selling paintings, so I had some hair, and I had overalls on. Overalls. People always ask me, don't you still have those overalls? No, yeah, right. Or just that the photo was taken in '83. Amaraj came out and took it from BTG. And then, Siddhartha's memories. Yeah, I still had hair then too. The hair came back because I was out fishing this wharf by then, selling trinkets to tourists. So that was in the '90s. That was like 13 years later. Where's that body gone? Whoa. So bewildered by nature's modes. So where have all my bodies gone? You starting to think of the song now? Where have all the bodies gone? changing by Father Time. Yeah, I used to think that I hit, you know, the famous. There's a funny Sankirtan story about this. And then after I told the story, Sankirtan devotees over the years, they said, "Well, the same thing happened to me, Prabhu. What it was is I was downtown in LA in the 70s. Let's see, I was coming back from the airport from LAX, and so even though I was working at the press, we press devotees were encouraged by Suresvara Maharaj at the time to be weekend warriors. So we also went out sometimes. And then going back, and then I came back on the bus, and then there was a kid from the inner city, you know, black kid, sitting next to me in the back, and I guess I was so fired up, I started talking about how we're not these bodies, you know, we're just not these bodies. And you know, in the 70s, 60s, and 70s, it was the Black Power. And it's really hard for people who are trying to assert their freedom through the body. You know, black is beautiful, Black Power, Black Ebonics. Remember Ebonics? It's black speech. We should teach this in high. This is how people actually talk. It's a legitimate dialect of English. You know. So anyway, but the kid, you know, he was interested because he saw my books and he said, "Hey man, what that?" You know. So I started to, this is how we're not the body. And then he's hearing me. And then he said the famous line that I thought was unique to my experience, but it turned out to be something that Sankirtan devotees, maybe you've heard this. Well, if I'm not this body, whose body am I? Whose body am I? Right? In other words, just the idea that you're not, okay, you're not this body, then whose, and you had to be a body, somebody. Whose body am I? And then telling that over the years to Sankirtan, the book distributors say, yeah, the same thing happened to me. This is a common thing. Whose body am I? That ever happened to you?
No, but I had a similar experience, similar thing, trying to distribute at a Black Lives Matter protest.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, whose body are we? What body am I? We're so attached to the body, so we're still trying to enjoy it. And we can't really enjoy our true self because our true self is spiritual. And to try to recoup that in your old age, just to say, oh, that's for, you know, I'll do that later. You hear this a lot from our Indian friends too. You know, when I get old, when I take sannyas, when the Lord wills it, when I take sannyas, then, but you can't give it up if you spent your whole life trying to enjoy the body. It just doesn't work. Now, in his purport, Prabhupada notes that spending our whole life in sense gratification, then trying to discover oneself through, quote, meditation, is simply remember the word Prabhupada used? Farce. It's a farce. Doesn't work. And then Prabhupada said, quote, such meditation is defeated by the struggle for existence because we spend our whole life, you know, we're the soul, and then we have this life force represented in the allegory, you know, the five-footed serpent, just trying to fend it off, you know, but then you get weak. You can't do it anymore. Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez were just in Tucson last Saturday. And they're preaching all about how we got to stand up to the Republicans and we got to get tough. You know, and it's all about for the working class. You know, Bernie's been saying this mantra for his whole life, right? And so then they interviewed him later. Somebody interviewed him and said, you know, you ran for president twice. Are you going to run again? You sound like a young man. You sound like you're fired up. And Bernie's 84 now. He's older than Joe, right? He goes, look, I'm 84 years old. I'm tired. So even Bernie Sanders admits he's tired. Doesn't work like that. Okay. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur makes a comment to this verse. he's taking the part of Narada Muni. He's commenting, quote, for 53 years, the watchman, which is the life force or the serpent who's protecting the city, of 9 gates, the figurative city of the body, could not be defeated for 53 years. Remember, because in your purport, you mentioned that, it's mentioned 50-ish. Could not be defeated. After that, however, Vishwanath says, gradually he was defeated. Now, got to bring in a line from the Beatles, right? Revolution number 9, the White Album, that cacophonous sound collage. Number 9, and then this crazy, all kinds of wild. And then once in a while, you hear a voice, and one of the voices says, every one of them knew that as time went by, they'd get a little bit older and a little bit slower. You get this little wisdom gem, and then it goes back to, hold that line, block that kick. Okay, now, Puranjan, he was becoming unhappy on seeing that his life air was growing weak. Puranjan, what are we going to do now? He can't protect us from time. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So let's look at what the verse that Alita did, what Prabhupada says. Because Vishwanath says 53, and then Prabhupada says because Prabhupada undoubtedly looked at that commentary as one of the 8 commentaries they look at. Up to the age of 50, one can actively work for sense gratification. Yeah, we're going to enjoy. But after the 50th year, one's energy decreases. Although one can, with great strain, work for 2 or 3 more years, perhaps up to the 55th year. Thus, the 55th year is generally taken by government regulations. Prabhupada must be writing from his own experience in India or something. Government regulations as the final year for retirement. No, it's not like that in America. You can start at 62 if you want to start, getting less. And up to 67, you can get more if you wait to 67. Unless, well, who knows what's going to happen now with Elon and Don. They might try to pay for their tax cuts, right, with Social Security. The energy which is fatigued after 50 years is figuratively described herein as a serpent with 5 hoods. Yeah, so you just get worn out. Time, kala kaliyatamaham. Among subduers, I am time. All right, so I'd like to share with you a personal experience of this, not my own, 78 and rising experience, but my dear departed dad. Okay, so he was a committed, like, we all are in the material world unless we get the mercy of a pure devotee, committed sense enjoyer. Okay, and I guess by his karma, he was pretty good at it. He made a lot of money. He even when his wife, our mother, divorced him, he remarried, somebody that could have been our age, 30 years younger than him. And he was just real frisky, 50s, 60s, 70s. I mean, he was boogieing when he was in his 80s, right? Then, in his 90th year, he was 89, and he was, as the Indians say, running 90. It all started to fall apart. It all started to fall apart. I was reminded of Hemingway. Hemingway killed himself, Ernest Hemingway, in Ketchum, Idaho, with a shotgun. You know why? Because he couldn't write anymore. He was losing it mentally, and he couldn't have sex anymore. So what's the use? So blow your brains out, right? Anyway, so he, so it all fell apart. It's all fallen apart. And I noticed this myself because I hadn't seen him. I was coming. It was 2005. The last time I saw him was in June. And I was coming back. Where was I coming from? 2000. Oh, I know where I was coming from. Talk about like father, like son. I also tried remarriage, but I was coming back from France. Tried remarriage with a French god sister. Right? That was hellish. So on my way back, I stopped in New York because he lives just, I got off the plane and I took the New Haven Railroad, which is then it became Amtrak. And I got off, and he put me up at a hotel. Oh, did he? Yeah, he would always do that. I was only one person. I didn't have I had a family. I did. Maybe I was. Anyway, I forget. Anyway, that's beside the point. So my father picked me up. Yeah, I don't think I was with my family. And he drove us to the beach, Cove Beach, where as kids, he would always take us to the beach, Cove Beach in Stamford, Connecticut. And we went to our favorite boardwalk, was still there from my youth, when he was a, very vigorous householder, family man. He would take us to the beach. And now it's just me and him. Yeah, just me and him. And we walked on the boardwalk. And wow, Dad just was not the same. It was the last year of his life. He should have been using a walker, but he was too proud to do that. So he was just walking. You ever see an old man walk real slow? Just, you can barely, he just sort of shuffling, I mean, at least when Gaura Shakti shuffles, he shuffles pretty fast. Old coot, right? But he was really walking slow, and the reason was because he was starting to lose his balance, and the vision wasn't what it used to be. I mean, he was a real good ball player too, football, baseball. So anyway, and then so I noticed Dad is really losing it here. And so we got back to the hotel and he insisted at coming in with me and saying, I think he knew what he was about to do meant that I wasn't going to see him again. So he gives me a big hug. And how old am I in 2005? I don't know, 20 years old. 58, yeah. Gives me a big hug. Well, 57, I'm going to turn 58, yeah. And so, no, 58, that's true. So he gives me a big hug. He looks at me, tears in his eyes. He says, son, life is a series of sad goodbyes. And that's pretty wise, actually. Bhutva, praliyate. Krishna says the same thing. Again and again, the day comes and this host of beings is active. And again, the night falls, O Partha, and they helplessly dissolve. Coming and going, created, destroyed, created, it's a series of sad goodbyes. And then I went back, where was I living? I was living in Hawaii, that's true. Went back to Hawaii. And then in November, I get the call from my brother. 6 kids, so my next brother down is Kenny. So Kenny calls and he goes, Dickie, did you hear? I said, what? Dad just took his life. Wow. He wanted no part of the old age program. He wanted no part of it. And so he left a note for his second wife. And she was a paralegal, and then she'd come home for lunch because it was close to where they lived in a condo. And so she comes back for lunch. She finds a note on the dining room table. You can find the body in the garage. Wow. So she went, what? So she goes down into the garage, into the, what did he have? He had a Cadillac, I think. Yeah, Caddy. And so there's the body, slumped. He'd taken a gun. He knew how to use a gun. He was in the military in World War II. Blown his brains out. And she felt his pulse. There was still a pulse. But then he quickly expired. So, he probably thought he was going to end his suffering. Yeah, because the note said, I don't want to be a burden anymore. Because really he didn't want any more part of that body that didn't work anymore. That was the real thing. So by Prabhupada's grace, yeah, maybe I would have had the same karma. Who knows? If Prabhupada didn't intercept my karma. True. Okay, so 843, I'm going to read the verse again if you have any questions or comments. Let's see, do I have anything else to say? Close with Dad's end of life story. The alpha male had to submit to Father Time. Yeah, he was a real overachiever. Translation, because he had to fight alone with so many soldiers, all of whom were great warriors, the serpent with 5 hoods became very weak. Seeing that his most intimate friend was weakening, King Paranjan and his friends and citizens living within the city all became very anxious. They all became afraid. Yeah, what are we going to do? Okay, any questions or comments? What do you say after that story, right? I had okay, go ahead.
Well, you said he was wet strong up until 90, and that was he good doing everything right up until 90. And then he lived to 94, but the last 4 years was one thing after another. It was really hellish, not just for him, but for everybody,
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
90 seems to be the number.
He even said to me, I think when he became 89, when he turned 89, he said, I always wondered who would want to live to be 90. And then he said, someone who's 89, because you don't want to die. But then that was before he started to lose all his faculties. And then but there's something in my karma that might have been, in the cards for me. Because after I dropped out of UConn for the 3rd time in 1969, December, I thought, well, what's the use? I mean, college is a joke. The world's a mess. Everybody's protesting, and Nixon's president. And so I went to the library. So I dropped out of UConn, and I went back to where I grew up in Stamford, Connecticut. My father was, there living with his second wife, and then I saw no reason to live anymore. So, but I didn't want to blow. I didn't know how to use a gun or anything. So I went to the library, and I did some research. And what was the research? What's the most painless way to take your life? So the most painless way I found out was monoxide. You just let the car, right? So I took my father's, he let me use his car sometimes. So I took my father's car, his Buick Cutlass Supreme, 1969. And I drove to North Stamford, where it was December and it was cold. So I drove to North Stamford, and I knew that a lot of these wealthy North Stamfordites were probably off in Florida, and that they were, some of them probably left their garage unlocked. So sure enough, I found an unlocked garage, and I drove in, and I turned I left the car on. So it was the places the places filling up with monoxide. I packed a lunch. I don't think I was vegetarian yet. Yeah, I packed a lunch, probably corned beef or something, right? And I was reading Hermann Hesse. Yeah, Siddhartha, Journey to the East. Yeah, I was starting to read Hesse. And then the window panes on the garage, they began to fill up. They began to get filmy because of the monoxide. And so I got kind of bored. Nothing was happening. I didn't pass out. I said, this is a drag, I thought I was going to go quick, but what is this? So I went to the window pane and I started doodling on the window panes. Yeah, I had eaten my lunch, right? And I didn't have anything to do. So I started doodling on the panes. And then I started laughing at what I was doing. This is absurd. I don't want to die. And I was 23 years old, or just 24, right? Is that right? No, I was 23, 69. I just turned 23. So I said, I don't want to die. And then I just, I made a smiley face and doodled, 2 eyes and a smile. And I said, I said to myself, don't worry what happens to you. Somebody up there likes you. So you're going to be taken care of. Just find the truth. It was the third time I dropped out of Yukon. I'd always drop out and go hitchhiking around the country looking for the truth. Because I wasn't finding it. But then I become 1A and they want to take me to go fight in Vietnam. So that's back in. So then I challenged myself. Don't worry what happens to you. Just find the truth, and that the truth shall set you free, as it says in the Bible, right? Okay, so it worked. I hitchhiked. It was cold though, so I hitchhiked to Florida. I was reading the Bible, Hermann Hesse, and experimenting with, psychoactive substances. And my mother wrote me a letter. Hey, Dickie, your name came up in the draft lottery, or your number came up in the lottery. They want you to go fight in Vietnam. Thank you very much, Mom. See you later. I'm going to Canada. So I hitchhiked to Canada, and that's where I met the devotees. And I read the Gita, and here we are. The rest is history. I'm just going on because nobody had their hands up. But anyway, it's pathetic trying to enjoy, and we can't enjoy the body, and it's a losing proposition, and we can't enjoy ourselves spiritually unless we become Krishna conscious. So we'll continue with what happens as the bill comes in for old age next time. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.